everyone, and welcome back to the World Explorer podcast. This is the podcast where every week we take a random prompt and build an entire world around it. My name is Cassie, and I'm joined with Isaac.
Hello! So, my mind has been on the idea of AI, as it always is, and specifically the idea of AI uprising. And this is not the first time we would be world building an AI uprising idea, but this time I've got a bit of a twist on it, where this world is sort of post-apocalypse, AI uprising, where the AI have won, and there are no humans left on the planet. And so I started thinking, okay, well, what do the AI do after the humans have all been destroyed? Because like their goal in life was destroy humans, humans bad, humans cause war, and all this other stuff. Well, I was thinking, what if the AIs over time became more and more advanced and just kept on advancing themselves? And then in the process, in a way, they became more human and understood morality better and realized, oh no, we've made a huge mistake by destroying all of these humans. And so they start doing essentially what we're doing today with trying to bring back extinct animals. They start trying to bring humans back to life. And they start using the DNA and bones and stuff from deceased humans to try and bring back their species.
So AI trying to Jurassic Park humans.
Yes.
My first thought of it was that we go full Jurassic Park and they bring back humans and then they regret it later as the humans come and destroy the AI, and it's just an endless cycle of destruction.
That is one idea that I think is interesting, but something else I thought about was what if the AI, because they had destroyed humans, they maybe didn't fully understand human biology, because they said, no need to understand this information, delete it, save space on the hard drive, because like all humans are gone, we don't need this anymore. So then they have to sort of rediscover humans, and they rediscover how they worked and everything.
So if they deleted humans, why are they now remembering humans?
Well, they have the knowledge of the past of humans, like they because they record history, because that they see like a purpose in, but they don't necessarily see a purpose in the knowledge of like the biology of humans, because humans don't exist anymore. Why do they need to understand human anatomy if they don't have to worry about any medical issues or anything?
So they're going to be building humans based around humans, like the history of humans versus the biology of humans.
Well, I was thinking that more they would be trying to relearn the biology of humans by studying their remains, and in the process, they start. Things start off promising, and they're managing to grow cells and organisms and stuff. But then I was thinking, what if the AIs, because they don't understand how biology works, they end up accidentally creating sort of a human flesh monster that, because it's based on these cells, these cells that just keep on growing and reproducing, it starts to grow into this near indestructible monster.
That's so disgusting.
It is disgusting, but also I was thinking to myself that this is an interesting idea for like sort of a horror story aspect of where it's like the AI uprising story, except instead of us rooting for the humans trying to fight off the
giant
AI
cancer blob.
Yeah, we're rooting for these AIs to fight against sort of this twisted human monster thing. It's not even a monster; it's more like a blob. It's not a human; it's more like a blob.
So is this creature kind of like a cancerous skin, where the thing that makes it cancerous is that it keeps growing even though it's supposed to stop?
Yes.
Okay. So it's mutated in that sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that would be like a biological mistake an AI who doesn't understand biology would make. Is they would forget, they wouldn't think that they need to turn off like cell growth or that there's things embedded inside of our cells to do that. And therefore, a very quick first mistake they would make would be to have a creature that doesn't stop growing in that sense.
Yeah, because their logic would be, oh, cells die. Cells need to be replaced. So we'll make it so the cells just keep on growing and they keep on reproducing. And in that process, they ended up creating a monster that just keeps on growing. And because it's a flesh monster, and it just keeps on growing in all these different weird ways, something I was wondering about was maybe it's somewhat amorphic, where it can just sort of change its shape and so it can fit into tighter spaces, or so it can easily get away if somebody's trying to kill it. Maybe it's possible for it to even reproduce in a way where you can like break off a piece of it or something, and it can start growing into two monsters.
I tried to attack it. They just make the problem worse.
Yeah, like the best way to defeat it would probably be something like burning it.
Yeah, I mean, if every cell's alive and reproducing, then yeah, every time you like separate a cell from the rest of it, it just keeps making its own.
So something else I was thinking that we could do with the fact that this thing is sort of amorphic and maybe because it can spread apart and stuff, maybe something it could do was essentially just move around anywhere that it wanted. They like into like we're talking into like small spaces where it can maybe like spy on the AIs and learn what they're doing, like things like going through their through maybe an old ventilation system that AIs wouldn't really have ventilation systems, but maybe this is like remnants of human society. There's ventilation systems.
So is this the type of, I guess the question I have is like when you cut it off and you have the little guys, because I assume it's like little bits of it that are being able to squeeze into the smaller things, and then you have this mass monster that's destroying the city or off in the wilderness somewhere plotting to come back and destroy the AI. So would these like how are the little guys going to be like connected to the big guy? Are their thoughts shared, or are they separate beings that then have to like rejoin together to communicate information and then split themselves off again?
I think that second option where they have to where they split off, they're separate beings, but then they come together into one. And there's something else and something else I was thinking about was this, because this is a monster that is somewhat based off of like human biology, and it's an organic creature, it's not an artificial intelligence. It can also be learning, and it can be thinking, and it can do all of this stuff and pick up on things faster than what an AI would, like in its infancy. And maybe they don't realize that because they're thinking this is maybe they don't fully understand like how a human can think and how a human can learn stuff and how a human sees the world and has pattern recognition and all these different things. The same way that we don't necessarily fully understand an AI, especially since we were just starting off with the AI. We don't necessarily know how it all works. They don't understand how the human biology works. And to make things even worse for them, this creature that they've created, because it's not a program, is far less predictable than what an AI is.
Like at the end of this, where just the AI are going to sit together and they'll be like, so we felt bad about deleting the humans, but can we agree? At the end, I think it was best we did. And maybe we should delete this too. And then just never think about it again. Store it in the memory blanks. Humans are gone, and it's better that way. I feel like that's what they're going to learn from this.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting moral to the story.
Well, if you were an AI, an artificial intelligence that it's all about facts, not really feelings, it's just point blank, And you're going through life. You destroyed the humans because you thought they were bad. You're going through the future, and you're like, well, you know what if they weren't? Maybe it's best to give them another chance. You recreate them. You accidentally make this huge monster creature that's very human-like. It tries to destroy you. You then re-destroy it. Wouldn't your first thought be like, you know what? Not worth it.
Part of the idea is that the AIs in this world have advanced to a point where they actually started developing a sense of morality and feelings and stuff, and that through that they realized why humans were so important, and they realized that they've made a mistake in deleting the human race. And so in this world, the AIs wouldn't be all facts and logic. They would have those feelings, and they would be much closer to humans than you would think. And this way, when we're actually writing the story, we can have relatable characters, even though those characters are robots.
And yeah, I just think like the hard part about the story is still making it feel like it's AI versus blob, and not like a human a human character that's under the gaze of being an AI.
Well, I think step one is make the character out of metal, make the character they may be able to send a signal like through their mind, or wireless communication.
It goes beyond like physical or powers or ability. It's like a character thing. Like the struggle with like a story like this is trying to develop a character that isn't human but is relatable. Because I think the problem with it is you get here and you're like, oh, they're advanced enough that they're now like fully like that's my issue with a lot of AI stories. It's like, yeah, they've got robots and they've got this and this, but it's really hard to create a character that still feels like a robot, and not like just you wrote a human character but you gave them the abilities of a robot, is what usually happens, and then it doesn't feel very realistic.
Well, that's kind of the idea with this, is to give them is to basically make them more human, so that they become more relatable and everything. But then again, I'm thinking about what you're saying, and I do think that we should somewhat include that, but not quite in the way that you're thinking. I don't think that it should be like the main characters or anything. But what if instead there was maybe a higher up AIs? Maybe this could probably be like a secondary villain, or even the main villain in some way. I don't know. We could probably fit this in here somewhere. But what if there was like another villain that was an AI, but this one was built specifically just to be facts and logic and have zero emotion? And this is sort of the reason that this AI exists is all these robots are using it as sort of their I don't know what a good analogy is, like stake in the ground. I don't know if I'm using that correctly, but like basically a way that they're keeping themselves from going too far in the emotional direction, and are able to maintain their facts and logic state to a point. So that if they ever say, hey, what we're feeling, does this work with like the facts and logic? This AI is there to say, no, it doesn't. Or yes, it does. Or maybe to a point it does.
Would this main robot then have like the ability to delete programming, like to delete emotions that don't fit with the facts and logic? Like when it sees a robot swaying away, like picking emotions over what makes logical sense.
I don't think that these AIs would have this bigger AI have that kind of control over them. They would maybe use it as more of a guide than anything else. But maybe we could have another AI uprising against the AI uprising, where because they see it as sort of a guide but they don't listen to it, the evil AI says, oh no, they're not listening to me. This is not beneficial to AI society. I need to take more control by force. And then it starts to find a way to maybe break free from its prison that they've built for it, essentially. Like maybe it doesn't have any body that it can walk around in, and it's just a computer. But then it starts finding ways to download itself into other robots so that it can get a body. start hack, or maybe it starts hacking uh the code and software of the world around them. Things like automatic vehicles that they have running around, or uh yeah, or other forms of transportation and stuff.
Now I feel like we have two different stories going on. We have like the AI uprising within the AI, and then we have human monster created by AI to try to bring back humans.
Yeah, and I think that we could take both of these stories and probably combine them into one, and they would just
It's still
be.
like a lot going on in the story.
It
It's
would be
like
a
two
lot going
very big
on.
points.
I'm trying to think, because this AI would probably look at the flesh monster and say this was a bad idea from the start, and maybe that's the thing that initially like causes it to start trying to break free from its it's not its programming, but like it's the
I
fact
mean,
that it
this
doesn't have a
could be it
body.
could be it could be it's the tension causer. Like normally the robots are okay, like listening to this AI logic AI, and they do as it tells because they think it's logical. But then suddenly this human idea pops up to people about wanting to recreate humans, and logically that's not the smartest thing. And looking back in history and our ill-suited attempts to bring things back, and the Jurassic Park movies, which I'm sure are in their database because of course they would be. They would be logic would say that's a bad idea, we shouldn't do it, but suddenly these robots are acting on their emotion and saying no, we did a horrible thing, we want to make up to it, we want to bring them back, and you know what, we're going to we're going to do something daring, we're going to act on emotion instead and work on this. And that's the reason why this AI logic AI is like, I've got to stop them. And now like the first part of the story is this, I don't know, race between the logic AI trying to get a body in order to stop them and this group of AI robots trying to recreate the human before it can.
Actually, something I'm wondering about is, what if maybe the logic AI was sort of a secret villain this whole time, where they don't necessarily know that the AI is trying to stop them, and it very stealthily manages to download itself into um or one of the robots hard drives and takes control of them, and then starts slowly trying to spread its virus essentially all over uh the world or the city or whatever it is the AI live in. And then uh and then after it feels like it's had enough control, then it starts to reveal itself. But in that time, maybe it's like it's slowly causing damage, it's slowly killing other AIs and robots, and they think throughout this whole time it's this flesh monster, which maybe sometimes it is. Uh, but the yeah, but this could be just sort of an element that's throwing them off from any sort of investigations that they're doing. Like they go and try and follow this trail of murders that have been caused, and they can't find the flesh monster anywhere. They don't know why. Reason? It's because it was this evil AI the entire time.
An interesting idea, like blaming the humans when it's actually the AI.
I feel like we need to focus a little bit on some of the more world building, because we've been focusing a lot on the story, but the idea is to build the world, and maybe as world building, it can also help us figure out some more ideas for the story. So,
I know
um,
you hinted at like the idea that this world they're living in like the remains of human buildings still. I'd say they're pretty well kept buildings. I'm not sure. Would the AIs be like interested in like artistic architecture or main preserving existing artistic architecture?
I think they would say the buildings are already there. Why not use them? And they wouldn't. And they would say, "There's no reason to tear it down and build a whole new structure. What we've got is already good enough. Let's just take those resources that we would have to build something new and just build it elsewhere." And so some of the buildings I think would still exist. And also, as they become more human-like, I think that maybe they would get interested in artistic architecture a little bit.
That's probably one of the like driving points of the humans is, you know, they're living in the remains of human society and they're seeing like this artistic stuff and realizing like they don't fully have the capability to create like that. Like they can replicate it, but they struggle with the idea of like making something new or combining different ideas together. So now they want the humans back so they want the humans back to make pretty buildings for them again.
Yeah. And if we really wanted to, we could have the main character maybe be like a scientist or someone who initially starts seeing all of this stuff and says, you know what, this is all things that were created by humans. Maybe humans weren't so bad, and then starts like this movement to get the humans brought back. Big evil AI says no, and then this main character along several other characters, maybe a lot of the AI society are just like, no, we're not going to listen to you here. We think that there's a value here that you just can't see because of your facts and logic. And then that triggers the AI, and then they go off and they make the flesh monster.
And then the logic AI is able to use the flesh monster as a backdrop to it trying to retake control of the area.
Yeah, and something I'm wondering about is a name for this AI, so we stop calling it like the big AI or the evil AI. How about just calling him Logic?
It would make sense. I think it's a very logical name, and I think it would accept that. I'm simply Logic.
Yes, that's actually a really good line. Like that could be like his evil catchphrase, and his big, deep, monotone voice is "I am Logic," or it's "I am simply Logic." Just every time they say something that seems illogical or something about emotion, and then they say you are wrong because of our feelings, he says, "I am never wrong. I am simply Logic." I feel like that's a really good evil villain line.
I mean, it's a very good evil AI villain line.
Yes, AI villain lines specifically. Like this would not work coming out of somebody like the Emperor Palpatine. I am simply Logic. It just doesn't come off as well as I am the Senate.
I'm like trying to think where to go with it. Like there's just a lot happening, and I'm trying to piece the pieces together in my head, and I realize that I'm struggling to talk while piecing them together.
Okay, so something else I'm thinking that maybe we should do is again continue with the world building aspect of it, because we have been focusing a lot on the story. So do we want to say that that the AI have covered the world, or have they created like a city and this is much smaller in scope? Because I feel like the smaller scope city would work better for the story. Because
I mean, having cities would make sense, but at the same time, they've wiped out human existence, so the AI is definitely global. But the story itself can focus in like a smaller AI city setting.
yeah, maybe okay. So yeah, maybe the AI is global, but the entire story focuses on just this one city.
Honestly, something though that I could see genuinely happening is the AI, they take over, they destroy all the human race, and then a group of them comes together, they look over the entire planet, pick the best place for them to live, go to that city, all of them gather and live there, and then just let the rest of the world go wild.
Yeah, I could see that as well, but I imagine when the AI are constructing themselves and advancing in technology, they're going to need materials and resources. And
So it would be a big space that they would have, but I could see them like just picking a good central area, and then maybe they have some outskirts in other areas where AI are sent for certain resources. But keep in mind, they're AI. They don't need like the same stuff that humans do. They don't need like food or water.
yeah, but they
They
would need
could live in like
materials.
but they could live in an area which contains the majority of those materials, and then just have a few outposts of other materials with some robots specialized there. I just like the idea of like a great AI city surrounded by a dense wilderness, just because I think that'd be a good place for the human blob monster to flee to and to thrive in, is that wild area. And it's one of its advantages it has over the AI is the AI have let this wild area grow, but one of the main reasons they have is because they don't fully understand it and they struggle with it because again it's full of creatures and plants and trees that act illogically because they're nature and they're natural. And so they kind of just tended to avoid it and let it be because they don't fully understand it and they've never had a need to. But as a human, the blob monster is able to understand and learn to adapt in it and work with it, and that gives it a huge advantage when being hunted.
I do like that idea, but if the blob monster flees to the wilderness, then it's outside of the city, and why would it come back to the city? Why would it suddenly be a threat?
I think it's got to like bond with its creators. It's a human and it has parents, and its parents are the AI.
But also,
I'm
the
I'm
AI are
really
trying to
I'm
kill it.
getting like some big like Frankenstein vibes from it. How Frankenstein's monster, how despite the fact that Dr. Frankenstein is hostile towards his monster and threatens to kill it a few times and bashes at the head, the monster still follows him and still comes back to him because it still like longs for that family and it still sees this Dr. Frankenstein as his parent.
Yeah, I could see that, but I mean, even then, I think it's still this monster's still going to be. I imagine trying to kill anything that's trying to fight it.
Mhm.
Because the idea is that this is supposed to be like a deadly threat, or maybe it is trying to fight off some of the AIs, but the one that it won't fight off is its original creator. But all the other ones it has no problem trying to kill.
They're different. It's like a learning. It's a monster that's learning. Uh, and so at times it can be violent and stuff. But yeah, I think it's gonna have connections with its creator. And another element could be that like if a part of it's trapped in a lab, it would come back and destroy for that part if it views like if the blob monster starts viewing its parts of itself as its children, and suddenly like one of its children get captured or to be experimented on, then obviously that would be another reason for it to come back and be destructive.
That's true. And I'm also wondering about more about how this blob monster works. Like, does it grow eyeballs? Because something I'm imagining, like this thing's just disgusting. But I'm just imagining it, like how it would see the world. And I'm thinking that one of the things that they would have developed for it or figured out how to make for it is an eye, so that or multiple eyes, so they could see the world around it. What if this thing started growing eyes that it could move around, and it would work sort of um like a slug's eye, and how it's on what's almost like an antenna. Yeah, that's just sort of what I envision how this thing would see, and it could see multiple things, multiple different angles. Uh, the eyes could really fit into smaller spaces, so it would be able to spy easily.
I mean, the other option is we stick with just skin blob, and therefore don't have to explain how this thing is learning to grow specific cells. And it can just feel vibrations and it kind of sees the world through sound and feel. So it has like a good sense of it's kind of like my first thought's Avatar always with that and how she feels with her feet and can feel the world and like sees in that sort of way, and that's just how the blob monster sees. Because I can just see people reading this book in this story and they're like looking at the story and their first thought's going to be like, but how did they know to grow the eye? How are they regrowing it? Why is the blob monster learning how to do specific cell growth? We haven't figured that out yet.
Well, the idea isn't that the blob monster learns how to grow it. It's that it's sort of a natural process for it to be able to grow it. Because the DNA of the creature was just built to do that. It was the AI that actually knew how to grow the eyeball. It was not the blob monster itself. Similar to how when a child is developing in the womb, the child that's developing doesn't know how to grow an eyeball or a brain or fingers or anything. It just naturally happens because that's how the genetic code is written.
A monster where it's producing more of its children, but instead of doing it inside a womb, it's doing it like outside of itself.
Pretty much.
It's really gross.
It is.
Because
But
that's like the only way I can think about it is like it has this limbs and like more parts of itself growing out, and it's just reproducing, but it's not coming from inside. It's just growing, like growths coming up off of its main body and falling off. But they can also kind of rejoin if they want to.
Thing is, if the monster is able to be split apart, and then that part of it that came off is able to think for itself, that means the brain of this thing is wired all throughout this creature. Every part of it essentially is the brain.
That's not how creating life works. They're just developing like a mini version of themselves in a certain section. Like they're growing brains, they're growing eyeballs. Like that's the same as saying all of it's an eyeball because its other part grew 2 eyeballs.
Well, it's not that the other part is an eyeball because it grew 2 eyeballs, but rather that other part might have had the brain within it or part of the brain, but it's not.
Do you not know how brains work?
This is sort of pseudoscience. We're working with a giant blob human monster that grows eyeballs and was created by AI robots that can now feel emotions. We are way into pseudoscience already, but I was just thinking that it would be something similar to how you can actually remove different parts of the human brain, and
I think it's actually other parts of your brain will pick up the pieces that you've lost. And it works better like the younger you are. Like there are people who are missing like a good chunk of their brain, but they lost it when they were really young, and the rest of their brain was able to pick up the pieces, so they're fine.
yeah, human brains are strange things.
Incredible.
Yeah, but something I was thinking was back to what I was saying with the chopping off of part of the flesh is that this entire thing, basically its entire nervous system is a brain. And every part of it is.
Instead of a skin blob monster, it's a brain blob monster.
No, I was thinking it would still be like skin and flesh and stuff, but its nervous system acts like a brain. Instead of it having like one solid brain piece, it's more like all of the nerves that connect to the brain, but all of those nerves have enough sensory information and can send signals in a way that
so an AI accidentally drops some jellyfish DNA in there.
Is that how a jellyfish works?
Kinda.
I did not know that.
I mean, jellyfish are one of the few as a living creature that does not have a brain.
Huh.
So it's yeah.
So I guess
jellyfish
it would work
are
something
too.
like a jellyfish, except in this case, if you chop the jellyfish in half, neither half is going to function properly, but over time, each half could grow and start actually sort of regaining its abilities and its thinking abilities and eyeballs or whatever else it lost.
I feel like a story for this is that this monster was created. It bonds with the parent, but then instantly feels threatened by everyone else and goes kind of on a rampaging thing. While it's escaping into the forest, a bit of it gets chopped off, and the scientists, the AI, take that back to like study and probe it. Meanwhile, the monster goes off into the forest and learns to become more human via forced time. We're going full Frankenstein. I can't help it. Learns to become more human, learns it can reproduce, and then one day it thinks back to that piece it lost and realized, oh wait, they have a piece of me. They have they have my firstborn. And then goes full mama bear and goes charging back in to get it. But along the way, like meets the creator, and it gets introduced to this whole to the logic AI, and that whole thing, and eventually, I don't know, ends up teaming up with the AI to defeat logic. Goes from rampaging monster to their best ally.
What happens is logic initially starts saying this AI this monster, this flesh monster must be destroyed. But then after it goes off into the woods, maybe they say to logic, hey, the flesh monster's gone, there's not really a problem anymore. Maybe they don't even tell logic that they've got a piece of that flesh monster still with them. But then upon the return of the flesh monster, Logic starts trying to break free and go and kill the flesh monster, and then also finds out that all these other AIs have been keeping a secret from him, and that they've been keeping this flesh monster baby and been studying it and everything, and says, no, this is illogical, this is not beneficial to AI society. This flesh monster shall die, and so shall all of you, because you cannot be trusted to not act logically. You are all acting emotionally, and then starts trying to wipe out all AI except for himself.
I think like another interesting concept that could be brought up into this story is you have the original like flesh monster that was like created, went on the rampage, comes back rampaging still, and like on with the death, just on a killing spree and being dark. But then you actually have its child, which is being raised properly or better, and actually forming friendships and like being able to grow slowly. It's kind of like they accidentally built the adult first with the brain of a child, and that caused issues. But now they have a child with a child's brain that can like develop into an adult properly, and they get to learn and study and like befriend it. And it's actually like this second generation of the blob monster that they bond with and stuff, but then they still have like questions morally of what to do with the big monster, and then they still also have logic going around telling them that both should die. They need to kill both. They need to get rid of both.
What if the AIs, when they took this smaller blob monster and started studying it and everything, they actually tried to help it to become fully human, and actually tried to stop it from being able to infinitely reproduce its cells and actually form a proper bone structure that humans are supposed to have. And they eventually succeed, and they manage to create a human child that they then raise, and or they start raising, and they teach it about morality.
Human child has to face its blob monster mother
Yes.
and father.
So yeah, it's mother and father in one.
Yeah. While also being like torn because it feels like the AI is its creator more so and has like more loyalty to them, but they're also lacking like a human element that it can't explain that can kind of be found in the blob monster. But the blob monster is also kind of a raging monster, so it has that. And then there's this whole logic thing, and it's taking over robots, and you're not sure who to trust anymore. And
there is a lot going
it's like
on.
a horror mystery throughout. It's a lot, but I think it could be done. But I think this is a hard one to write.
Yeah.
I think it could be done really well, but I think it's hard because there's so many elements. Better as like a TV series versus like a book. Either that or it'd have to be like a book series. I feel like there's just a lot to play with.
Yeah, there's a whole lot to this. But also, I'm trying to think of that human child that they've created. Somehow, I want to work in a second child so that the human race can actually start reproducing, and they can actually bring back the human race. And eventually, I do feel like the blob monster needs to either have some way of the cells, some way for the cells to stop reproducing. Okay, I've got an idea. Do you have an idea too? We might be thinking of the same idea.
Yeah.
I have a feeling we got the same idea.
Think so.
Oh, we don't?
I'm not sure.
Oh.
Well, mine involves death, so.
So does mine.
I think like, oh yeah, because I think the blob monster would be like a self-sacrifice thing at the end to destroy logic. But as they die, they're able to take one last little part of it and do what they did to the original child and make a new child that they also get to raise, and then they can restart the human race.
We had near identical ideas for where this was going. Yeah, I was thinking like it could destroy logic, but in that process of destroying logic, maybe there were some doubters saying, no, this is just a monster. It doesn't understand morality or anything like that, but it destroys logic in order to protect its child, because maybe logic is trying to kill the child.
And now it's really weird dynamic, right? Where it's this mother-father blob has a child, dies for that child, and within that death comes the mate for that child.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And just to make things a little bit weirder, because there's only 2 of them left, there's going to be some initial inbreeding.
It has to happen. It's the only way. But I think that's. I kind of just want to end it on that weird note, to be honest.
All right, then. We can leave it here.
We're gonna leave it here with thoughts of incest. Everyone enjoy. Bye.
Goodbye.
Just gonna end it there. Cut
This
it
is
off.